Bag snatchers, robberies and street crime. According to police figures, more than 3,500 theft incidents are reported every day in the UK.
I know it was bad, or I didn't think it's that bad.
But have you ever wondered what happens to our belongings when they're stolen? Thief Trackers tells the story of where they go. We're hiding satellite tracking devices inside a range of desirable everyday items, like cameras, smartphones and bicycles, to trace the looters' footsteps. The thieves may think they've got away with it, but we're tracking their every move. With secret filming, CCTV and police raid footage, we'll get an insight into the criminal mindset.
Honestly, I don't know.
And uncover the unseen journey that our treasured possessions take when they're stolen. Today, we're on the trail of a stolen laptop as an opportunist thief goes walkabout.
It's a classic piece of deception theft. The victim's attention's been distracted and he's just gone for it.
Plus, a crooked businessman who feels nothing is sacred when it comes to handling stolen goods.
He is a very calloused man who has no feelings whatsoever for what he does to other people.
And cutting-edge tracking technology is hot on the heels of a gang of international truck snatchers.
Walked around where the office was, and that's when I saw the office door kicked in, and then I realised right then that the lorries had been stolen.
Laptops are among the most desirable electronic gadgets around. Over 65% of us in the UK have one, putting it high up the computer consumer's shopping list. Unfortunately, that also makes these highly priced portables a prime target for thieves. To help us get an understanding of the criminal mind, we've enlisted the help of Keith Farquharson, former Metropolitan Police Inspector and security consultant with over 30 years' experience.
Police figures show that 34% of all thefts in central London are computer-related thefts. That's purely because it's so easy to sell on and make a good profit out of it.
And once your laptop's stolen, there's little you can do to trace it. Unless, of course, you have it fitted with a tracker, like this. It's a GPS tracking device with a battery as small as a matchbox. Depending on how many signals the tracker sends out, the battery can often last for up to 14 days.
So this is a tracking device, and that means that the device is able to figure out its location. How does it do that? Well, it does that by using a technology known as GPS, the Global Positioning System. The core of that technology is the ability of this device to measure the range from this device to orbiting satellites. Once you've got those numbers, you can plot the position of this device on a map.
What we've got to do is just place the tracker and the battery gently inside, making sure that it's not visible from the outside.
With the tracker fitting snugly under the keyboard, a thief would never suspect it's there.
Here you have a laptop, GPS tracker installed.
Now the tracker is secure, we're heading to Soho because it's London's #1 spot for personal theft. More than 850 such thefts took place in these streets in the 12 months to February 2015. In fact, the borough of Westminster as a whole is London's #1 borough for all crime. All our towns and cities have hotspots like this, and we all know where they are. The location for our stakeout is a cafe in the heart of Soho.
As you can see behind me, there's a footfall here of hundreds of people per hour going through, so ample opportunity for thieves to act here. The type of crime we can expect are opportunistic thieves acting singly or distraction thieves acting as pairs or in teams.
It's 7:30 at night. One of our production team is outside posing as a customer, drinking coffee, chatting on her phone, with the laptop clearly visible on the table. Now, this isn't entrapment. She's not leaving the laptop unattended. She's doing exactly what we all do when we drop by our favourite cafe. Thief Trackers isn't about confronting and catching thieves red-handed. We just want to see what happens to a laptop when it's stolen and find out where its journey ends. Now we're underway. Our larger, overt cameras withdraw, leaving just these two small hidden cameras to catch the action. So, it's just a question of time as the team wait for a thief to pounce. 15 minutes gone, and no one has paid any attention to the laptop. Wait, we might have some interest here. Maybe not. It's nearly 8 p.m, early by Soho standards, but still bristling with people. So far, no one has shown any criminal intent towards our laptop. Ah, here's someone having a sneaky peek. No, just curious. More than an hour now, and aside from the odd glance, our laptop hasn't gained a lot of attention. Our researcher is really getting into her role as a cafe customer, distracted by a telephone call. Unfortunately, at this point, one of our 2 hidden cameras loses power, so we're left with only this angle. Now hold on, who's this man? The laptop's right in front of her, so it would take a brazen thief to whisk it from under her nose. But this is what happens when thieves work in pairs. What you can't see is that our researcher has been distracted by someone out of shot. And now, once the victim's attention is taken away from the laptop, the other crook is free to make a move. Now he's got the signal from his mate. And he's going for it. In the blink of an eye, he's off. And there goes the accomplice. We can pick up the laptop with the tracker now, which shows the thief is heading south through the Soho back streets. Later, we trace the laptop's extraordinary journey through London's underworld.
The thief knew this area quite well. It may well be that he's got contacts within the local area and selling it onto one of those.
Thieves don't always work in pairs. Sometimes theft can be the result of a criminal acting alone, prizing financial gain above any consideration for the feelings of his victims. That's what happened in Croydon, South London, with a catalogue of robberies that shocked a community.
How someone could commit a crime like this, it's absolutely appalling in my view.
And the cold-blooded actions of an unscrupulous local businessman who dealt in the spoils of Greyside robbery.
He is a very calloused man who has no feelings whatsoever for what he does to other people.
He was unaware that police were about to catch him out with cutting-edge tracking technology invisible to the naked eye.
It's showing smart water on the cutting blades.
This shameful tale of grave desecration began back in 2011, when a relative visiting Croydon Cemetery made a sad discovery.
A member of the family came into the office, stated that their plaque was missing. A member of my team went out to the area to look at it, and we found that a whole rose bed of bronze plaques had been taken, and that hit us straight away. We realised that some major crime had taken place and a number of memorials had been taken.
We're not talking a handful here, but 900. Yes, 900 plaques worth roughly £150,000. Nothing was saved from the thieves, not even war memorials.
The impact that this sort of crime has on families is immeasurable. People are at all different stages of their bereavement journey, and the impact can hit them as greatly as it did on the day that they first had the bereavement. People just couldn't believe that someone would stoop to those levels.
This bout of grave robbery soon came to the attention of Sergeant George Shannon. He's a key figure in Operation Ferris, a nationwide clampdown on metal theft, which the police estimate costs our economy more than £700 million a year.
Metal theft is the second biggest crime generator in the world after drugs. The actual metal theft itself is undertaken by a variety of people, from the desperate to feed drug problems to organised crime.
Following a tip-off from trading standards officers, the police began to investigate a scrap metal dealer in Croydon. He seemed to have no scruples when it came to buying bronze plaques fresh from the graveside. His scrapyard was just a mile away from the cemetery. Maybe just a coincidence?
40% of all our metal thefts were within half an hour walking distance of this yard, which is disproportionate for a borough the size of Croydon.
His actions were so despicable that they even shocked other criminals.
For an example, one person gave us information, said, whilst I may be no angel, I don't believe in chopping up more dead plaques. He's gone too far.
In May 2012, the police mounted a raid on the yard to bring this unpleasant trading to a halt.
And this is what is left of the yard now at the moment. This is where it all took place.
Sergeant Shannon takes us back to the scene of the crime. Now an empty shell, it was once a hive of criminal activity. The police found more than 400 bronze plaques. They were all seemingly stolen from local cemeteries.
People were shocked. Even a lot of experienced police officers saying no one's going to be robbing from graves in 2012, and the sheer quantities they were doing it in for the sake of a relatively small amount of money.
The crooked dealer had been paying as little as £1 for each plaque, well below its true value. But that hardly matters when you consider the emotional damage he'd been causing.
There was plaques that had been there for 20 years to ones that had been there less than a year. Very touching and kind of moving us. People had recorded when they had a stillbirth and the child was born. Down at the back of the yard, we found memorial plaques in the process of being chopped up.
A vain attempt to disguise the stolen memorials before selling them on.
He knew exactly what he was doing, but just didn't care.
By chopping up the plaques, he thought he'd get away with it. What he hadn't realised was that some of them had been marked with an invisible tracking system called Smart Water. It glows under ultraviolet light.
Each bottle of Smart Water contains a unique forensic code that is registered to the individual owner of each bottle and can be applied to almost any item.
Samples of the chemical taken from stolen property can be tested back at the lab to help trace its origin.
The Smart Water was already on the memorial plaques marked by the graveyards. The trace elements were also showing where the various machines had chopped the plaques up, so it formed a continuous link. Evidentially, it's quite important.
The scrap dealer was also unaware that police had laid a trap for him, coating a lorry load of supposedly stolen high-voltage industrial cable with this invisible tracking liquid.
We marked it into 3 delivery slots, each marked with Smart Water. Through his greed, paying way below market value for the goods, he accepted the goods knowing them to be stolen. We found evidence of all 3 deliveries at the yard when we raided it.
The police uncovered a whole host of stolen goods at his yard. The profits from his disgraceful dealings soon became all too evident. But this shady metal trader treated his arrest as just a minor hiatus in his illegal activity.
The reaction of the owner was completely deadpan, no remorse whatsoever, casual indifference to the whole situation. If this yard was not turning a blind eye to the people who were selling it, those graves would not have been desecrated.
Ironically, the dealer's own CCTV footage has him banged to rights, overseeing the destruction of the memorial plaques. The rogue metal merchant was sentenced to 15 months in prison. Perhaps not as severe as some of his victims would have liked, but hopefully they take some comfort in knowing that the crook has been brought to justice, preventing other families from suffering similar losses. When tracking down stolen personal electrical items, good results can be much harder to achieve. At Thief Trackers, we're mounting our own undercover operation. Earlier on, we fitted this GPS tracker into a laptop. While outside a Soho cafe, our victim was seemingly distracted by one crook, while a second man stole the laptop, unaware that our covert cameras saw his every move. The thief slipped away into the shadows, but where did he go? The tracking software now does the legwork for us. The data is stored online, mapping the laptop's journey from the moment of theft.
So this device has got on board a form of communication technology. It's rather like the device has got a mobile phone on board, and if you want to figure out where the device is, you send it a message, say, well, where are you? The device then communicates to you via the internet and sends you a set of information saying, this is where I am right now.
After the thief struck, the data shows that he walked away swiftly, heading south. He stopped for almost 2 hours in the Whitcomb Street area. Our crime expert, Keith Farquharson, has been analysing the tracking data.
As you can see, during the daylight hours, this is a well-used cut-through between parts of London. During the night time, it's not so well populated at all. In fact, it's very quiet, although it is covered by CCTV. We've got a multi-storey car park here just over my right shoulder, although that closes during the weekdays at 11:30 p.m. So the timeline does kind of fit in with that he may have gone into there, looked at the laptop, and maybe secreted it to come back a short time later.
The tracker shows the laptop continued its journey south to Villiers Street alongside Charing Cross Station. It stayed in this location overnight.
Trying to keep an open mind on things, the person's either secreted it overnight and come back to it early the next morning, or kept it on them and slept rough around this location. As you can see over my right-hand shoulder, there's a shopping centre beneath Charing Cross Station where homeless people do sleep, and further down the road there's exactly the same. It's duplicated.
So the mystery deepens. Was the thief sleeping rough in the city centre? Let's consider his activities the next morning. The tracking data reveals that at 8 a.m, the laptop crossed the River Thames at walking pace. It was heading towards a network of streets at the rear of the Old Vic Theatre, meandering around Webber Street and Mitre Road.
The trail that's indicated by the tracking system would indicate that the thief knew this area quite well. Just down the road a little bit at Webber Street is a homeless shelter where people do tend to congregate relatively early in the morning. That may be an indication that that's where the person was going. It may not. You have to keep an open mind on these things. It may well be that he's got contacts within the local area and selling it onto one of those, or just an on-spec type sale to anybody that he approaches.
Suddenly, there was a change in the laptop's journey pattern when it moved to the northeast of London and to the Bulls Pond Road in Dalston. The data indicates that the laptop spent the weekend there.
I think it's been passed on. All the indications are that this person that originally took it was very comfortable in the way that he was walking around. It was quite parochial, and then to go over to Dalston is quite a large leap.
So perhaps our thief passed the laptop to an accomplice who took it to Dalston. But why did it then return to the city centre on the Monday morning? Was it being brought back to sell in the West End? By this point, our laptop had seen more sights than an open-top bus. It moved around the Charing Cross area, eventually heading to a building on Irving Street, a theatre ticket agency. It remained there for 11 hours, and then the signal stopped.
So at 1 p.m, the GPS shows that the laptop was at the ticket booth behind us. That ticket booth has got a basement level to it, and with GPS it will only show you the location. It won't show you actually on what floor of that particular location it's on. So follow-up inquiries would have to be made with staff there.
We decided to visit the ticket agency to continue our hunt. We were welcomed by renowned theatre impresario Ashley Herman, producer of more than 35 West End shows and the founder of Encore Tickets, who was very surprised to see us.
The only thing which is strange, I can't quite figure out, is that the shop shuts at about 8 o'clock at night, and yet you were still tracking it after that time, so which implies that someone left it there. I don't think our staff would have noticed anyone coming in with a laptop any more than they would recognise someone coming in with a camera or a suitcase. And I guess it would be quite possible for them just to leave it under the stairs or shove it behind a box or something. And it could be, of course, it was just discarded all this time. If any criminal activities are going on in London, but particularly if it could affect tourists one way or another, such as leaving stolen goods in a shop, we want to know about it. And we want to help stop it. So we're 100% behind what we're doing.
So our laptop travelled around for 5 days before the tracker signal stopped, possibly the shortest run in West End history.
So the conclusion to the journey of this particular laptop is that it's ended around this particular area, probably at that ticket booth, but there's no evidence to indicate that anybody within the business of the ticket booth is responsible or had any dealings at all with that particular piece of property.
It's a mystery what became of the laptop, but it's very likely that the thief discovered the tracker.
That thief either destroyed it or made it unusable. It may be that the street collectors have collected it and put it in a bin, or that he, in fact, has put it in the rubbish with the rubbish that's left out overnight.
We don't win them all on thief trackers, and it looks like this time the thief got away with it. But the authorities are welcome to take a closer look at our surveillance footage and take action against the Soho street thieves. Criminality takes all forms, from the spur-of-the-moment act by a petty thief to large-scale robberies undertaken by organised crime gangs. Every day in the UK, 10 lorries are stolen, often to order and with a very low recovery rate. On average, just 12% are found. So it's no surprise that haulage companies are looking for ways to protect their assets. Salfords, a village 24 miles south of London, close to the M25 orbital motorway. It's the setting for an audacious robbery by a gang of international lorry thieves.
The police told me that there was approximately 10 vehicles. There's a good £1 million worth.
All that stood in the way was a high-tech GPS tracking system.
It was highlighting the speed and the fact that thieves were actually speeding in the vehicle.
And one man's dedication to duty.
I saw the office door kicked in and the whole office was trashed, and then I realised that the lorries had been stolen.
Paul Ruth has been a lorry driver for more than 40 years, the last 3 for a waste management company near Gatwick Airport.
I'm a rolling off driver, delivering containers to different companies, but it can entail about 300 miles a day.
Paul's even forged a kind of bond with his 32-ton machine.
This is my little office. I sit in this lorry for 8 hours plus a day, and it belongs to you, it's your area.
Ah, nice. Rolling off lorries such as Paul's cost £115,000 each. Considering around £500 million worth of trucks and goods are stolen every year, Paul's looking after a very valuable asset. Sadly, criminals will find ways to steal anything, no matter how big it is, as Paul was about to discover one weekend in September 2014.
Well, that Sunday morning, I just come in because I've been away on holiday, family holiday for a week, and I just said to my wife, I'd just go and check the lorry over and check the work, see what I've got for tomorrow. And I arrived just after 9 o'clock, and the gates were open. The first thing that came into my mind was the other driver that I worked with had come in on some overtime to maybe catch up, but then I realised that his car wasn't there, and then I just looked over to where we parked the vehicles, and both of our rolling offs were gone. Walked around where the office was, and that's when I saw the office door kicked in. I just peered in there, and the whole office was trashed.
Thieves had broken in, smashing up the office in their hunt for the lorry keys.
And then I realised right then that the lorries had been stolen. You know, I thought if anything would have ever happened, maybe the diesel would have been drained or something like that, but not to actually take the vehicle itself. It felt pretty invasive, really, because it's not their lorry, it's my lorry that I drive every day. I've got my own personal possessions in it. I wasn't happy about that at all.
With £230,000 worth of trucks stolen, Paul's first job was to call the police.
And within 8 minutes, we had a police officer arrive. First question he asked me was, are the lorries tracked up? And I said, yes, they are.
As luck would have it, the company had recently invested in a GPS tracking system.
The trackers that were put into these lorries were only done, I think, about 5 months previous. Not because they think it's going to get stolen, but it's to see where we are during the day. They can check this lorry's nearer to the job than that lorry, so it's beneficial for time, fuel costs as well.
But these were techno-savvy crooks. They had stripped all the electrical gadgetry they could find from the trucks in the hope of sabotaging the tracking systems. No one could be sure the trackers were still operating.
I was alerted by a phone call from a colleague saying that the depot had been broken into. So when I first logged onto the system, the tracking information gave me the whereabouts of the vehicle.
Thankfully, the trackers were undamaged, sending GPS signals to update their movements. This showed the stolen HGVs travelling east along the A13.
It was a relief knowing that the trackers were working, but then anxious that were we ever going to get the vehicle back.
The tracking data is recorded 24/7, logging the truck's locations, speeds, and whether the ignitions are turned on or off. A quick look at the tracking history told John the thieves had actually struck on Saturday night, taking the lorries up to East London to hide them overnight. He constantly updated the police on the stolen truck's positions, but decided to let the professionals take over.
I actually give them the permissions to log into our tracking system, and they could track for themselves and guide their police in directly.
It was just waiting to see what happened next.
The thieves weren't hanging about. The trackers showed them speeding north towards Chelmsford, and the likelihood was that the trucks were destined for Felixstowe docks to be shipped abroad. The police gave chase, but these thieves were clearly no amateurs.
They've definitely driven a lorry before, especially with this got, a high and low range gearbox. It's got 8 forward gears. They would have to have known how to change that up, otherwise they wouldn't have got very far. In the low range, it's quite slow.
The vehicles had now reached the outskirts of Chelmsford, and the data readout indicated the engines had been switched off. Unfortunately, when the police arrived, the truck rustlers had left the scene, although they had collected quite a haul.
The lorries were found in a disused scrap merchant's yard. The police told me that there was approximately 10 vehicles there, each of them valued at around about 100,000. So there's a good £1 million worth of vehicle there.
You heard it, £1 million worth of the latest in heavy-duty commercial transport snatched back from under the criminals' noses. The owners of the other 8 vehicles were delighted to have their trucks returned too.
The police did suspect that the vehicles were going to go abroad. Waking up on a Monday morning, we would have discovered our vehicles gone, and our tracking would have still worked, but it would probably shown them going down the English Channel somewhere.
So, an international truck snatching operation had been thwarted thanks to cutting-edge tracking technology and one man's dedication to his work.
I keep my lorry under floodlights every night now, make sure it's locked up every night. I don't leave anything personal in it anymore, because I don't want to lose it again.
We didn't have all of our vehicles tracked. We've now gone over to tracking all of our vehicles. If they want to try a similar crime, then they will be caught, we will track them, and we will recover our property. I would say good luck to them, but I don't particularly want them to try because of the inconvenience it causes.